Some people have no soul. They walk around and they are dead inside. They have nothing that's deep in between their ears. They are little robots that run around, NPCs who actually don't even exist. These humans, these people, they have killed themselves off. They've compartmentalized themselves. They are no longer with us. This is a bit tongue in cheek, but there are many people who, on their journey in life, whatever it is they're doing, they're not developing their soul internally. They are simply living in their mind. They're living in the material world, and they don't have a transcendent access to anything else. Now, these people, there is something inside of them. However, they don't actually feel or have any higher kind of like things inside of them. Now, example, you have, let's start off on the very top. There are people who compartmentalize themselves. There are people who have split personality disorders. There are people who are borderline personality, where they are actually not acting out who they really are. They are someone who is putting on facades and fake identities to survive. Now, these people, many in history past, might have been considered possessed, or they might have been considered someone who had like a demon inside of them, right? They had something else running them, maybe even like, dark looping thoughts, etc. Now, you can argue with me about all this, and my terminology is being just a little bit, broad in the sense that it's trying to portray a bigger picture. But if you take a look at a lot of society, as it currently is, a lot of our culture, we have a lot of what's called a monoculture, where everything is kind of touched on around the United States and the West by mainstream media. If you have the internet like Facebook, Instagram, whatever, or TV, which has been around for quite a while now, a lot of people fall into the same narratives or the same ideas, and they do it to get along with what they perceive as the tribe, right? They don't necessarily think for themselves, or actually try to act for themselves, which is even a bigger thing. They're just doing what they're told, which is in many ways, for survival and for evolution, it's good. It allows us to move forward, but we don't live in the same environments that we initially were born into as humans. We lived in like these hunter gatherer times, where everything was a lot more risky, and we were just trying every day just to get food. But nowadays, that's not our problems. We have different sets of problems. And because of that, people are still trying to follow old patterns, where they're still trying to go along to get along. And nowadays, we actually have to develop ourselves individually. We have to cultivate our souls, if you want to, put it in some, metaphorical language. Now, this is something that I've worked on for a long time, and I've spent more or less my life trying to accomplish. This is, a lot of old practices, and I can show you how to do it. So, if you start off with, well, let's go to, you have your mind, your body, your soul. Let's kind of split these things up. The easiest to think about first is your body. You have your hands, your feet, your eyes, your ears, da 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 da, all these things, and they can all kind of work on their own in a lot of ways. A lot of them, they kind of have their own minds of their own. Look into this. A lot of your body can function without you. So you have like your hairs on your arm. I got a lot of hair on my arm. When you get cold, you have automatic responses to get goosebumps, right? Your sinuses, when you have, like for me, if I have like a lot of sun hit my eyes, my sinuses will contract because of my eyes dilating and all this stuff, and then they will cause me to sneeze. And there's many other things like if you touch something hot and you didn't realize you touched something hot, you automatically pull your hand away real fast. That's your body. It has its own intelligence. Now, your mind, right, at which there are different parts. You have your conscious mind, subconscious mind, da 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 da, all these different things, is where you can do a lot of your processing. There are these brief moments where you're actually able to consciously think. Most of your day, you're not consciously thinking. You're running off these sub patterns, these routines, kind of like in a logarithm. So you have like right now, you could say I'm doing a mix of thinking and not thinking while I'm talking. But let's say you're doing a math problem, like you're trying to figure out what 5 plus 5 is, if that's a hard math problem for you, or 62 times 62. You say it, and you have to consciously think through the process, right? Then you have more of your subconscious mind. Now, this would be something like, let's say that you've been driving a car for a long time. You've been driving a car for 10 plus years. Have you ever driven a car and been able to like play with the radio, drive with your knees, and eat food all at the same time? Are you really thinking when you're doing all those things? Or is it just kind of like, oh, it's just automatic processes? You don't have to really consider what you're doing while you're doing it. If you think about each action while you're doing it in that moment, you're probably pretty likely to get in a wreck. That's your subconscious mind taking over. It's something that's deeply, taught, or just walking or something like that. Then last we have, what is it? Your soul, right? Ooh, what is this thing that's talked about all the time? It's in history, it's in religious books, it's people like, they're like, this is this ethereal thing, right? Now here's what I think your soul is. And I'm happy to hear anyone else's perspective. But your soul, it's kind of like your subconscious in that it's deeply learned things. It's when you have this emotional response to things, when something moves you, when you hear something, it's like, oh, that is true, that is correct, that is real. Or if something is bad, really bad, and you hear it and you get a repulsion, a heavy repulsion from it, it moves you in your soul. Now, a lot of you could make some arguments. This is my subconscious. This is deep ingrained, right stuff. I would say it's a half layer to a layer beneath the subconscious. It's something that is attached to your identity as a whole, your identity, your deep narrative, right? Your eternal narrative of who you are across all time and space. This is your soul. This is when you hear good music that really connects to you. You hear it in your soul. When you are motivated to do something that you feel is deeply important, right? That is like, let's say, existential. That's your soul. When you have, let's say, a family member who's in danger, and you actually have this deep feeling like you have to save them or something. I don't know if anyone's been in an experience like that. That's your soul, right? Now, this thing that's in you, some people don't have it. They have barely have a soul, right? Um, Now, you can say that they have emotions around, like empathy, things like that for other people, etc. That are thought out. But I'm talking about something that's not, something that's explainable from the conscious mind when it is felt. It's not something that was logically worked through. It is something that is, it's gut level, it's instinctual, right? It's a very deep layer of understanding something. Now, this soul that you have can be refined. It can actually be grown, and it can be advanced, if you want to call it that. Now, the religious text, right? If we want to go, let's start with the Bible, right? This is the one I'm the most familiar with. They talk about how your soul is being refined um, through fire. Your soul is actually something that is over time improved. the way that it's talked about that this is done is through deep struggle, where you go through adversities or you actually pick a goal or a mission, and then on your way, when you're trying to achieve or strive to accomplish a thing, your soul becomes tested. You actually have to burn off old parts of your deep identity, and you have to change them. And this, it feels deeply unsettling and it feels painful, right? Why is that? Why is it so painful? Because you're killing off a part of yourself. What is that self that you're killing off? It's your deep identity. It's the person who you deeply see yourself as, or you recognize yourself as. Your your idea of who you are. You have a little story in your mind, if you want to say that part, where you are, I am fill in the blank, this person, and this is what I do, and this is my place in history, this is my place in the world, and this is my place in eternity. And when you look at that, right, and you want to improve it, right, that part of you that is improving has to have room made first for new identity by getting rid of the old and then replacing it with the new. Now, how do you do that? So your identity is the accumulation or the sum total of your actions, right? And those total actions, right, add up to a total which is who you are. Okay, I'm overcomplicating that a bit, but this being who you are um, is it's very important. It's what goes on. It's your legacy, you could say, in a way. Now, this is where people are usually, let's go back to them being soulless. Most people have a refusal to change who they are. They have a refusal to be anything different than what they are told to be, right? Let's talk about, so most humans, for example, are born into a culture, right? Let's talk, say you're born in the West, you're born in the United States. You have a certain set of usual within your area cultural norms. Like, let's say you're born in the South, you're probably going to be a conservative. You're probably going to be some form of a Christian, right? And you're going to think about American values where you are, hardworking, independent person who pulls himself up by their bootstraps type thing and takes care of their family, right? Now, you can say that those are good things, sure. Now, but that's not necessarily anything that they came up with on their own. They're mimicking, they're copying, they're doing what ducks do. They're imprinting on the mama duck. Now, maybe they just pulled up all these things, and it's you'll notice they do these things, but they're very, let's say, soulless people. They could be someone who they don't emote when they talk. They don't actually show emotion much. These type of people, and what's happening is that they're copying like an logarithm. These people they don't know it deeply in their soul. This is just like a program on the top running. And it's when someone actually lives out the experiences and they actually come to the conclusions of what they believe on their own, that is when they actually begin to grow their soul, right? And here's the thing, you can't do that just from reading a book. You can't do that from just hearing someone else say it. You have to live it. And that is why we are here, right? We are on this earth to actually act, not to just exist and to absorb info from others. They call it spiritual bypass, right? So you can have a person who they spend hundreds, thousands of hours reading from books, or like let's say they want to be spiritual. They want to learn all of the deep truths of the universe, right? And they know it all, man. They've read it all. But you look at them and you're not impressed by anything about them. And let's say when they come to be tested in a moment, if they truly believe something, would they be a martyr for what they believe? Would they actually, in the truest moment when they're going to have to face what it is that they believe, choose to be congruent with that, their identity, their true identity, over living, right? It's very real. I mean, this is why saints are often considered martyrs, or martyrs are often considered saints in, like, let's say, the Catholic religion, right? It's because they are in their soul truly aligned with what they believe. Now, I brought up the South, right, of those that set of ideas of people, but you can have many different people who what they learn is just it's their culture. It's not deeply within them. I mean, you go to Asian countries, China. I mean, the ideas of communism are just well understood as being the norm. Um, I'm not going to impose that I know too much about them, but I mean, the general idea is that capitalism is bad, that everyone should never own what it is that they have, right? It's all collectively owned. I mean, real estate over in China, you can only own it for 70 years and then it's given either back to the government or it has to be passed on to another person. You basically have like a long lease on property there. But is that something that they necessarily are individually truly aligned with, or is that just a collective set of thoughts that has been passed down and ingrained in them? Um, this goes on and on and on. I'm just trying to illustrate a point here. Now, this is where I have to transition to where I started to learn these ideas. And I actually have a book here. This is probably one of the more influencing books on my life, and an obscure book. It's called Do Hard Things. It might be backwards in it, but it was actually by two young men. I met them at a conference. Their names Alex and Brett Harris, and they, as kids, had a challenge from their father, which I thought was very interesting. As teenagers, where he did not want them to be copycats or people who couldn't think for themselves. So he challenged them as children to, I think in one summer, read, it was either like 50 or 100 books in a summer, and to then go on and go off that momentum to do harder things, right? And I think they did it. They wrote a book, then they started running seminars as teenagers. I think they were like 18 or 19 when I met them. I might have been like 16. But the premise is when you do hard things, right, you are putting yourself in that refiner's fire. Your soul gets refined in these missions. In the East, you have the two paths that a soul can take. This one, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's the path of the guru or the path of the king, and both lead to enlightenment or something of the sort, where you have one person who goes into a cave and sits and reflects, meditates, and just spends their time trying to purify their soul through abstinence, right? And then they say the other path is through the king, the one who goes out and conquers reality. This individual, they take on everything and they go to the extreme where they then conquer the world, and in that they reach their soul's highest destination. Now, if you've ever seen, there's the spiraling snakes, right? there's some thoughts that if you take both paths, it is the best way to enlightenment, the left and the right, or to spiritual um, completeness, whatever. And at the top of that, you rejoin with God or the one source, etc. Now, something I should bring up is, why is this even important? Why does this even matter? I'm talking about developing your soul here and learning these true things. This is, in my opinion, why we are here. You can live, you can exist, you can have kids, you can, pass on the generations and eat food, etc. But the deeper thing we're here to do is to both evolve physically and, in the more important sense, the physical as a platform for allowing the soul to evolve more. What does anything matter, right? In reality, if consciousness isn't increased or improved. And when I say consciousness, I mean awareness of the self, awareness of everything around us, um, identity, like an understanding of who we are, what we are. That is the big questions. And the way that I have found for me is the best way to develop your soul, your deep identity, is through putting yourself into hardship. You have to actually pick up your cross, your daily cross, not just spectate. My YouTube description, if you read my channel description, it says there are those who, one, watch what happens. There are those who wonder what happened, and those who make things happen. And you want to be the last on this list, because that is the person who is developing their soul the most. That is the person who, when you take on adversity, you're forced to confront who you are, how you'll perform, and it will bring you the most growth in life. Now, it's not easy. It's not something that's always enjoyable, but it's deeply satisfying, and it resonates with you on a core essence. It's a deep feeling. And when you go out and you interact with other people and you talk to them, you can have a calmness when you talk to people, not a soulless like emptiness, but a calmness of self-assurity, and you can have an internal peace about yourself when you interact with others that they just are not going to have. They're not going to be, you'll see it like an instant. They don't have it. And it's something that money can't buy. What is it to gain the whole world but lose your soul? And it's even on your hard path, there are people who are very rich, right? Who have gone through struggle and adversity, right? And they still haven't grown their soul. Why? Because they sold their soul to get it. Now, this is a good distinction to make real quick, right? Now, if you are your identity trying to be someone in alignment with truth and someone with, maybe, let's say, more positive things, the long game, not the short game, then you have to make certain decisions that will take you longer to reach that success than the shortcuts. Now, here's a great example. You can have someone who's a drug dealer, right? They peddle drugs, and they could get money very quickly, and they can move up very fast from whatever environment they are. But they did it by harming others, by selling something that hurts others. What do you think that does to their internal identity deep down? Is what's it gonna? Their subconscious will absorb it, and who do you think they're gonna see themselves as? Are they gonna see themselves as someone that's good and deserves to go on for a long time, Are they going to see themselves deep down as a parasite and someone who is undeserving to actually continue on for eternity? They're more than likely going to identify with themselves being a leech, someone who, hurts others. And that's what this hard stuff is staying congruent to truth and righteousness, being honorable when you are on your spiritual path, right? Uh, it doesn't even have to be a drug dealer. Let's say you're someone who owns a McDonald's franchise or something, not knocking McDonald's, or just some franchise that, let's not pick on them, that sells people garbage food. Yes, you made a buck, but you did it at the expense of others. I mean, what if instead you sell something that actually benefits others? What is your identity going to align with then of who you are? It's going to align with that you are a good person, that you're someone who is helping others and doing a service that's, financially feasible so that they can have a better life. And your place in the universe will be someone who is worthy to stay in the vine. You're producing fruit. Someone who is, a good soul, let's say. It gives you good karma. Now, this is the part where I put in my experiences to show you, to illustrate a little more. This video is starting to run a little long. I challenged myself when I was very young to do things that were difficult, that I thought would help be of service to other people. Now, a lot of that had to do with athletics. Um, I pushed myself to compete in a lot of martial arts and fighting, combat skills, things like that, which in and of themselves, is very confrontational and difficult. There's a lot of emotional regulation, and you have to shape who you are through long endurance adversity. And through that, I wanted to be able to, protect myself, to take the responsibility of taking care of myself, and to be able to protect others, which I then rolled into going into the military where I could help and protect others. The idea was is that these are very difficult things to do, and they shaped me tremendously, and they gave me a lot of calmness for a lot of reasons. And they force you to face your fears and not identify with your fears, right? So that all being said, that was one path, and then the other was is that I wished to be I really wanted to be a wholesome person and somebody that helped others, and I took religion as a very important task to be able to develop, myself to do something hard, and that requires a lot of discipline of, the virtues, and having, proper action, being honest, being charitable, um, helping other people, all these things, right? And that changes your identity yet again, and you have to continually, daily face the temptations to not be a scumbag, just putting it simply. So I really think if you watch this whole video and you think it through, you may get the general concept of how it is that you can develop your soul. Because this is the thing that goes on forever. And then the most important, when the times get hard, when you're under pressure, you stay consistent and congruent to who you are. Because in doing these hard things, you've trained yourself to stay the path, right? And when this is done, you develop, you grow, you grow in a sustainable way. And the rewards are a long-lasting good life, or eternal life, continual lives. Okay? I've gone a little long in the tooth here. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if anyone else could actually benefit from this video, share it with them. That's all for today. Thank you. Have a good one.